American Neorealism, film's favorite new genre. When the term realism is mentioned, what comes to mind? Realism often evokes an art and film style that aims to depict subjects as they appear in everyday life, without any embellishment or interpretation. The various genres and subgenres of art can often seem pretentious and confusing, so simplifying this concept is helpful. American Neorealism is likely a favorite film genre for some, though many people are unaware of it, partly due to the influences of Walt Disney and Ronald Reagan. Recently, filmmaker Sean Baker has been labeled as America's leading neorealist, but that designation may be somewhat inaccurate. In 1944, the Italian film industry was nearly non-existent. After 20 years under fascist rule, creativity was suppressed. However, just 2 months after the Nazis vacated Rome, Italian filmmaker Roberto Rossellini began shooting Rome Open City. With local film studios damaged and repurposed as temporary housing, Rossellini had to film almost entirely on location. He used various black market film stocks and mostly non-professional actors. The citizens of Rome found themselves reenacting their recent hardships, creating a unique and dark cinematic experience that was not well received when released a year later. Before this, most narrative films were escapist fantasies focused on storytelling and entertainment. Rossellini's work, however, laid the groundwork for a movement soon known as Italian neorealism. The most renowned film of this movement, Bicycle Thieves, released in 1948, follows a poor man and his son as they search for a stolen bicycle crucial to the father's job. Italian neorealism had a significant impact on filmmakers across Europe, Africa, Latin America, and Asia. By using non-professional actors, filming on location, and telling relatable, relevant, and realistic stories, these films have become so influential they resemble modern cinema more than films from just a few years earlier. Neorealism never truly gained a foothold in America. Although it was influential and there are several films from the era that adopt a neorealist approach, the genre itself was never clearly defined. It wasn't until the independent filmmakers of the 1990s that neorealism's influence and its exploration of poverty as a genuine subject were widely embraced in American cinema. But why is that? Was America more enamored with Western cowboy hero movies? Was it because the country had won the war? Or were American filmmakers simply uninterested? The Hollywood blacklist was a period extending from the late 1940s to the 1960s, during which numerous individuals in the film industry were accused of being communists and subsequently banned from working in Hollywood. This blacklist had a stifling effect on free speech and political dissent, leading to devastating consequences for the careers of those targeted, as well as some of their former colleagues. The blacklisting originated from an investigation by the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, into alleged communist infiltration of Hollywood, driven by the pervasive fears of communist influence that emerged after World War II. During these investigations, hundreds of people in the entertainment industry were summoned to testify before the committee. Many were coerced into identifying others they suspected of communist sympathies. Those who refused to cooperate or whose responses were deemed unsatisfactory faced severe repercussions, including being blacklisted from the industry. Some individuals even faced imprisonment, with a few sentenced to up to a year in jail. The Hollywood blacklist not only curtailed the artistic and professional opportunities of those accused, but also left a lasting impact on the American film industry and its approach to political expression. Two of the most prominent supporters of the Hollywood blacklist were Walt Disney and then Screen Actors Guild president Ronald Reagan. Both testified before Congress in support of the blacklist, providing evidence against their colleagues. Reagan, who had become an informant for the FBI, supplied the agency with a list of names he suspected were communists. While he was more hesitant in front of Congress and stated that he didn't believe the Communist Party should be outlawed if it was a legitimate political party, the fight against communism soon became Reagan's first political passion. Walt Disney, on the other hand, testified before Congress and accused many former employees of being communists, their crime being an attempt to unionize. The blacklist had a lasting impact on Hollywood and American culture. Filmmakers were not producing neo-realist films because they feared having their lives ruined if they addressed neo-realist subject matter. By the late 1980s, the impact of neo-realism on American cinema was unmistakable, epitomized by films such as Jim Jarmusch's Stranger Than Paradise and Down by Law. Moving into the early 1990s, This resurgence of neorealism had become so pervasive that it defined the independent film movement in the United States. However, the context in America during the 90s was vastly different from post-war Italy. The socio-political landscape was significantly different. Filmmakers such as Richard Linklater and Kevin Smith focused on the everyday lives and boredom of suburban America, while Harmony Korine depicted the lives of impoverished and marginalized individuals with a more experimental and stylistic approach. Meanwhile, filmmakers like Spike Lee, Jim Jarmusch, and the Hughes brothers addressed the effects of poverty in urban environments, often intertwining these themes with more traditional Hollywood conventions. Linklater and Smith both created films centered around conversations, with minimal plot development. This suburban interpretation of realism continued to influence the rise of mumblecore in the mid-2000s, characterized by low-budget films that prioritize dialogue and personal relationships over plot. However, it wasn't until the late 2000s that a wave of films began to emerge, incorporating these influences in a way that could most accurately be labeled as American Neorealism. This is where Sean Baker's films like Tangerine and The Florida Project come into play. While these films are undoubtedly influenced by neorealism, and The Florida Project might be considered the greatest film from this movement, Sean Baker is not the first or most acclaimed filmmaker to develop this style. Consider Derek Cianfrance's 2010 film Blue Valentine. It employs a naturalistic visual style and delves into the intimate personal experiences of its working-class characters, offering perhaps the most accurate depiction of a troubled marriage on film. However, unlike traditional neo-realist films, it features Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, both Academy Award-nominated actors. Similarly, Jeff Nichols' films Shotgun Stories, Take Shelter, and Mud share a naturalistic visual style, use non-professional actors, and focus on themes such as poverty, neglect, and family dysfunction within working-class families. These films explore complex human emotions and relationships, setting them apart from the traditional neo-realist focus on broader social issues or political commentary. Notably, they feature Michael Shannon, with Mud also starring Matthew McConaughey. However, The Florida Project is more stylistic, focuses on relationships, and stars Willem Dafoe, a two-time Academy Award-nominated actor. If we're to describe these films as American neorealism, which I agree is the best way to describe them, we need to define what that entails. A fusion of neorealistic approaches with traditional Hollywood conventions. These stories often focus on poverty or marginalized groups within American society, using non-professional actors and a naturalistic visual style to emphasize the lives of ordinary people. As American film critic Jay Hoberman put it, they give a voice to the voiceless, the poor, the dispossessed, the unemployed, peasants, children, and ordinary people subjugated by circumstances political or social they could not control. This broad perspective on the genre allows films like Linklater's 2014 Boyhood to fit under the American neorealism label, even though it focuses on the life and upbringing of a middle-class white kid. Films like American Honey, Moonlight, Good Time, and Nomadland also embody this label. Despite featuring some of the most famous actors of our time and having major production companies backing them, even films about robbing banks feel realistic because, at their core, they are grounded in realism. While the 90s indie wave reflected suburban boredom, 2010's American neorealism was shaped by the 2008 financial crisis. With 38% of Americans struggling to afford household expenses, 64% living paycheck to paycheck, and 8 out of 10 in debt, it's no wonder these films resonate deeply. Much like the citizens of Rome in 1945, people today seek both relatability and escapism. By portraying the realism of the working class and the inherent need for escapism, these filmmakers have made neorealism more accessible and transformative. This genre is ever expanding, and as films within it continue to gain attention and acclaim, its future looks bright. Many of us can relate to these characters in ways even the actors portraying them might not. Yet we still leave the theater feeling uplifted. American neorealism is my favorite film genre, and despite its roots in Walt Disney and Ronald Reagan's America, we're only just beginning to understand its full potential. The resurgence of neorealism in American cinema, particularly in the late 1980s and early 1990s, marked a significant shift in the portrayal of everyday life and socio-economic issues. Filmmakers have continued to develop this genre, blending neo-realistic approaches with traditional Hollywood conventions. This fusion has created a unique style that resonates deeply with contemporary audiences, especially in the wake of economic challenges. American neorealism has evolved to depict the realism of the working class and the inherent need for escapism, making it both accessible and transformative. As this genre continues to gain attention and acclaim, its future looks promising, offering a profound reflection of society and the enduring power of realistic storytelling. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Let us know your thoughts on American neorealism in the comments below. See you next time.